Here we are at Johnny's Social Club talking about Culture Days, and we've got Tom Heine with us, who's going to talk about his Culture Days event.
A lot of people have lived for decades in Flin Flon without any real understanding of the rocks that they live on. And some will wave their arms a bit and say, yeah, it used to be a volcano, and walk off and, oh, what's so special at the co-op? I hope with this tour to be able to inform people a little more about the geology of Flin Flon, which is really pretty amazing. In the famous last words of Crystal Colt, really, really amazing. But we're fortunate here in that the volcanic sequence that's preserved here is very well preserved. What you see is what you get. The original textures and interrelationships amongst the flows is perfectly preserved. The rocks haven't been extensively metamorphosed, so the preservation is, I won't say unique, but it's singular in its qualities. So you don't have to squint your eyes or scratch your head to see what you're looking at. Now, the rocks here were deposited almost 2 billion years ago. We've done some investigations. Most of the volcanism in the immediate Flin Flon area took place about 1.93 billion years ago. That was when life consisted of a bit of blue-green algae, a bit of single-celled animals. Certainly the fishing was really, really lousy here. In fact, if you were floating here on your boat, you'd probably need a breathing apparatus because you wouldn't have enough free oxygen in the atmosphere to survive. Now, we'll be looking at some basic volcanic stratigraphy, the way the rocks were deposited, the interrelationship of them. Now, I call the tour walking through a volcano because, well, everybody's seen the pictures of the volcanoes in Hawaii or Iceland, and you see these smoking cone-shaped volcanoes, and you say, well, where's the cone-shaped volcano here? Well, unfortunately, with geological processes, the rocks here have been tilted so that essentially your originally flat-lying surface is now sitting tilted about 45 degrees to the east. And the many millions of years of erosion have planed the whole sequence down so that you're looking at a cross-section of a volcanic sequence. So, we're going to be walking through a volcano. And there are some pretty amazing things to see there. And we'll be outlining those in very basic terms. We won't be using any technical expressions, so it's kind of tied into basic understanding of what people know already. I would encourage people to dress appropriately. I just about froze myself. There was, I think, a good-sized icicle hanging off the end of my nose the end of last year's tour because I was not properly dressed. We had a very strong wind and rain coming out of the north. So, be prepared. Decent, you don't need hiking boots, but decent shoes. The rocks aren't tremendously slippery. They're not lichen covered, courtesy of Hud Bay Mining and Smelting, the smelter, which has now been shut down for a few years. So the rocks are nice and bare, and like I said, what you see is what you get. It'll be a good tour.
Well, that's great, Tom. And so that's Saturday at what time?
We'll be meeting at the end of North Avenue at North Avenue Park. I'll put up a couple of signs, and you'll probably see my smiling face. It's at the what the city uses as the snow dump, and there's some really good solid outcrops, continuous outcrops off at the eastern side of the park. So you've got to kind of curve around the road. You can park right there. We are within maybe 50 meters of the start of the actual outcrop examination. I'll be posting a couple of signs there. The tour starts at 11. I hope will be done at 12:30. So an hour and a half to wander around the outcrops, have a look, listen to some explanations, discuss. More than happy to discuss that the world is not 4,500 years old.
Well, that's great. That's Tom Heine, who's doing the Walking Through the Volcano, and that's Saturday starting at 11 o'clock. And Crystal wanted me to mention that right after Tom's thing at Pioneer Square, we're going to be doing something called a bucket list. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is the Flin Flon Choir is going to be performing Handel's Messiah, and we're inviting people to come up and conduct the choir. So I know Clarence Peterson is going to be one of our guest artists for conducting, and who knows, maybe some of our choir members will take part of that, maybe some children, maybe some dignitaries, but it's all going to be happening at Culture Days, which starts Friday, September 25th, and we hope to see you at all our events. Susan